This presentation will discuss the Title II Part A Meaningful Consultation requirement that is part of the random validation process for 2021-2022. We will go over the documents the LEA will need in order to participate in the random validation, as well as the specific items that TEA staff will review. Before we begin, we want to point out that documenting overall compliance with a program requirement may require several forms of documentation to be maintained locally and available upon request by TEA and/or an auditor. To ensure overall compliance with program requirements, LEAs should refer to the program guide and/or other program-related resources that reference the multiple forms of documentation required to be maintained locally. The documentation requested for submission during the random validation process may not include all forms of documentation that are required to be maintained locally. To complete this validation, the LEA will need the 2021-2022 Random Validation Submission Packet and Handbook that are specific to the Title II Part A Meaningful Consultation requirement. These documents were emailed on October 4th, 2021 to those LEAs that were selected for this particular validation. Title II Part A statute requires the LEA to meaningfully consult with teachers, principals, other school leaders, paraprofessionals, specialized instructional support personnel, charter school leaders in LEAs that have charter schools, parents, community partners, and other organizations or partners with relevant and demonstrated expertise in programs and activities designed to meet the purpose of Title II Part A. Looking now at the Random Validation Submission Packet for Title II Part A Meaningful Consultation, we see that the documentation required for Item 1.1 is the relevant pages from the District Improvement Plan. This would include the title page of the District Improvement Plan, and only those pages of the plan that relate to the consultation process. This might be narrative sections where the LEA has described its planning and consultation processes, or specific activities that are indicated in the plan. Please do not submit the entire District Improvement Plan. The term meaningful consultation refers to a genuine opportunity to participate and provide input into planning and decisions concerning the program. Issues that may result in an improvement needed status for this item include the following. Auditable documentation requested was not submitted. Documentation submitted does not reference the consultation process. Documentation from a prior year was submitted instead of current year documentation. The documentation required for Item 1.2 is documentation of stakeholder meetings. Acceptable documentation for this requirement would be meeting agendas and meeting notes, which provide evidence of meaningful consultation with the required stakeholders in the development of the Title II Part A program. It should be clear from the agendas and minutes that the stakeholders have a genuine opportunity to participate in the planning and decision-making. It should not be a rubber stamp approval. Sign-in sheets should include the date, stakeholder names, roles, and signatures for the required stakeholders. Required stakeholders are defined by Title II statute as teachers, principals, other school leaders, paraprofessionals, specialized instructional support personnel, charter school leaders if the LEA has charter schools, parents, community partners, and others with relevant demonstrated expertise. Please note that parents who fill the parent role on the committee may not be LEA employees. Documentation for virtual meetings is acceptable. Given the increased use of virtual meeting environments, participant rosters that include the meeting title, meeting date, and stakeholder names and roles would be acceptable substitutes for the more traditional sign-in sheets. This eliminates the need of a participant signature. Issues that may result in an improvement needed status for item 1.2 include the following. Auditable documentation requested was not submitted. Documentation submitted does not reference the name and date of the meeting. Documentation submitted does not demonstrate representation of the required stakeholder groups. Documentation from a prior year was submitted instead of current year documentation. Specific instructions for uploading the completed submission packet and the supporting documentation are available in the 2021-2022 Random Validation Handbook for this requirement. Questions related to the 2021-2022 Random Validation process may be directed to program staff through the division telephone number at 512-463-9499 or the division email address essasupport@tea.texas.gov.